My name is Clyde, and I never thought I'd be telling this story. I wish I wasn't. I wish I could rewind time, go back to the version of myself that didn't know, that still believed in the woman I married. But here I am. For the past 11 years. I thought my marriage to Lenora was solid. We weren't perfect. No couple is, but we had love, trust, and 2 beautiful kids who made everything worth it. Or so I thought. It happened 3 nights ago. I came home from work a little later than usual. It had been one of those draining days, the kind where you just want to collapse on the couch. Kiss your wife and feel like the world makes sense. Again, when I walked through the front door, something felt off. The house was clean. The smell of vanilla candles lingered in the air, but it wasn't welcoming. It was staged, too neat, too controlled, like she had prepared herself for something. Lenora was sitting on the couch, her hands folded in her lap. She looked up at me with wide, nervous eyes. "We need to talk," she said softly. That's when my stomach twisted. Those words are never good. I set my bag down and sat across from her. "All right, I'm listening." Her fingers clenched together, and I could see the tremble in her hands. She took a deep breath, like she was bracing herself for impact. "I made a mistake," she whispered. My heart pounded so hard I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. "What kind of mistake?" My voice was calm, but inside I was screaming. Her lips parted, but she hesitated. She couldn't even look at me when she finally said it. "With someone else?" The words didn't register at first. My brain refused to process them. "What do you mean?" I asked, even though I already knew. Her face crumbled. "It only happened once. It didn't mean anything. I swear I was drunk, and I wasn't thinking. It was a moment of weakness, Clyde." I stared at her, trying to connect this confession to the woman I had loved for more than a decade. Trying to understand how the person I trusted with my heart, my future, my children, could do this to me. "Who?" My voice was barely above a whisper. Lenora swallowed hard. "Gideon, Gideon." A name that meant nothing to me. Not a friend, not a coworker, just a stranger who somehow had been given a piece of my wife. And 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks? 3 weeks of sleeping next to me, kissing me, laughing with me, knowing what she did, and saying nothing. I got up. I needed space, air. Skin felt too tight, my lungs too small. Lenora grabbed my hand. "Clyde, please. It was just one night. I don't want to lose you over this." I pulled away. I need to think. And with that, I walked out the door into the cold night, with no idea where I was going, only that I couldn't stay there. I don't remember much about that night after I left. I just drove no destination, no plan, just the sound of the engine and the cold air creeping in through the cracked window. My mind felt like a storm, waves of confusion, rage, and disbelief crashing into each other over and over. Gideon. The name meant nothing to me. Yet now it was burned into my brain like a scar. Stranger, but a stranger who had something that was supposed to be mine alone. I pulled into an empty parking lot outside a diner. The neon sign buzzed, casting an eerie glow on the asphalt. I sat there, gripping the steering wheel, staring at nothing. How do you process something like this? I always thought infidelity was something that happened to other people, something that destroyed other marriages, not mine. Never mine. Yet here I was. I thought about every kiss, every embrace, every whispered, "I love you" over the past 3 weeks, every weeks of pretending. 3 weeks of looking me in the eye, kissing me goodnight, saying she loved me, all while carrying this secret inside her. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth ached. Had she ever really loved me? Or had I just been convenient? I couldn't stop. Picturing it, I didn't want to, but my mind wouldn't let go. Is it in a hotel? His place? Was it quick? Meaningless? Or did she savor it? Did she kiss him the way she kissed me? I squeezed my eyes shut, shaking my head, trying to force the images away. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to hate him. More than anything, I wanted to understand why. Why throw away everything for one night? The sound of my phone vibrating pulled me from my thoughts. I glanced at the screen. "Lenora," I let it ring. A few seconds later, a message popped up. "Clyde, Please come home. I'm so sorry. I love you. Love. Did love stop her that night? Did love stop her from getting in bed with him? Did love make her keep it a secret for 3 weeks? I put the phone down and ran a hand over my face. I had no idea what to do. The next morning, at some point, exhaustion won. I fell asleep in my car, waking up to the harsh glare of the sun. My body ached, my head throbbed, but none of it compared to the ache in my chest. I drove home not because I wanted to, but because I had to. We had kids, a life. I couldn't just disappear. As soon as I walked in, Lenora was there waiting. Her eyes were red, swollen. She had been crying all night. Good, she should hurt. She should feel even a fraction of what I felt. Clyde, she started, voice breaking. I held up a hand. Don't. She flinched. I walked past her, heading toward the bathroom. I needed a shower, needed to wash off the stench of betrayal. But before I could take another step, she spoke again. I'll do anything to fix this. I stopped, turned. Fix this. I let out a bitter laugh. You can't fix this, Lenora. You can't unsleep with him. You can't erase the fact that you lied to me for 3 weeks. Tears spilled down her face. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is burning dinner. I gestured between us. This was a choice. Covering her face, I stared at her, waiting for something, an explanation, a reason, anything that would make sense of this. Tell me why, Lenora. My voice was raw. Tell me what I did that was so terrible that you had to go and do this. Hey. Looked up, shaking her head frantically. It wasn't about you, Clyde, I swear. It was me. I was drunk and I wasn't thinking. You were thinking enough to let him touch you, thinking enough to go through with it. She sucked in a sharp breath, like my words had physically hit her. Good. Let it hurt. I should have felt satisfied. Seeing her break like this, but all I felt was empty. What was I supposed to do? We had a house, kids, a life. But now I didn't even know if I could look at her without seeing him. I didn't respond. I just turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, sobbing into her hands. I stepped into the bathroom, shut the door, and locked it. The second I was alone, I finally let myself breathe. The reality of it all weighed on me like an anchor around my chest. The woman I trusted, the mother of my children, the person who was supposed to be my safe place, had shattered everything. I turned on the shower and stepped under the scorching water, letting it burn my skin, hoping, praying that somehow it could wash away the sickness inside me. But the images wouldn't stop. Lenora with him, their hands tangled together, his mouth. On her skin, her whispering his name, the way she used to whisper mine. My stomach clenched, and suddenly I was leaning over the drain, dry heaving. I felt physically sick. How long had she thought about it before she did it? Had she flirted with him for weeks, months? Had she wanted it, or was she telling the truth? That it was just a drunken, meaningless mistake? I pressed my forehead against the cold tile, hating myself for even considering believing her. Because deep down, I knew something she refused to admit. Cheating isn't a mistake, it's a choice, and she chose him. I don't know how long I stood in the shower, but when I finally stepped out, the steam had fogged up the mirror completely. Wiped a hand across it, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't recognize the man staring back at me. I looked hollow, like a part of me had died. I got dressed in silence, ignoring the ache in my chest, forcing my body to move on autopilot. When I stepped out of the bathroom, the house was eerily quiet. I walked into the kitchen and found Lenora sitting at the table, staring at her untouched cup of coffee. She looked up the moment she heard me, her eyes searching mine for something: hope, forgiveness, a chance. I gave her nothing. "Clyde, please," she said softly. I didn't answer. Instead, I grabbed my car keys and started toward the door. "Are you going?" I hesitated, but didn't turn around. "To clear my head, you were gone all night. Please, let's just talk." Talk. As if words could glue together the shattered version of what we used to be. "There's nothing to say," I said, opening the door. "What about the kids?" Her voice wavered. I stiffened. Our kids. Our innocent, oblivious kids. They had no idea there. Mother had just detonated a bomb inside our home. I turned back to look at her, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Not fear of losing me, fear of what this meant for them. And just like that, I felt my anger twist into something even darker, because she hadn't just betrayed me, she had betrayed them. I didn't leave right away. Instead, I walked outside, sat in my car, and gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I needed answers, real answers. So I pulled out my phone and did the one thing I had been avoiding. I called Gideon. It rang once, twice, then he answered. Clyde. His voice was hesitant, like he had been waiting for this moment, but dreading it all the same. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Meet me now. Silence, then finally where? You know? The diner off Maple. 30 minutes. I hung up before he could respond. I had no plan, no idea what I was going to say. But one thing was certain. I was going to look this man in the eyes and make him explain why he thought my marriage was his to ruin. The drive to the diner felt like a slow-motion car crash. My body was moving, my hands gripping the wheel, but my mind was a chaotic storm, replaying every conversation, every moment that had led me here. I pulled into the parking lot, my heart hammering against my ribs. The neon sign flickered in the early morning light, buzzing faintly in the quiet. I sat in my car for a minute, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. Then I saw him. Gideon. He was already there, sitting in a booth by the window, looking nervous. Good. I stepped out of my car, my legs feeling heavier than they ever had. Every step toward that diner felt like walking into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The bell above the door chimed as I pushed it open, and for a split second, everything felt eerily normal. The smell of coffee, the low murmur of conversation. From a few other customers, the waitress wiping down a table. But nothing about this moment was normal. Gideon saw me, his face paled, and he shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I didn't sit down right away. I just stood there, staring at him, studying him. He wasn't anything special, just an average guy, with tired eyes and an expression that told me he was terrified. Good. Finally, I slid into the booth across from him, resting my hands on the table, staring him down. Talk. My voice was quiet but firm. Gideon swallowed hard. Clyde, man, don't call me that. I cut him off. You don't get to act like we're friends. Just tell me the truth. All of it. He exhaled, running a hand through his hair. His fingers trembled. It was a mistake, he muttered. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, that's what she said too. Funny how mistakes only happen when people are naked. Gideon flinched. It wasn't planned. We were both drinking. He hesitated, like he didn't want to finish the sentence. She what? I pressed. His eyes darted away. She was venting about your marriage, about how things had felt distant. One thing led to another, and I swear it didn't mean anything. My jaw clenched. Distant. Was that her excuse? That we had a few rough patches? So she just gave up on us? Where? I asked through gritted teeth. Gideon hesitated again. At her friend's house, there was a party. We went upstairs, too. I held up a hand, cutting him off. I've heard enough. I knew where I stood now. I sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in. This man had touched my wife, kissed her, had something that was supposed to be mine alone. Now he sat across from me, pathetic and scared, trying. To justify it? Do you regret it? I asked. He nodded quickly. Of course I'd take it back if I could. I never wanted to hurt you. I stared at him for a long time, and then slowly I leaned forward. Then you should have kept your hands off. Another man's wife. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. I threw a few bills on the table for the coffee I never ordered and turned to leave. Gideon didn't say anything, because what else was there to say? I didn't go home right away. I drove aimlessly for hours, my hands gripping the steering wheel, like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to reality. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun was hanging low in the sky. My hands were stiff from clenching the wheel, my throat dry from hours of silence. I stepped inside, expecting tension, but the house was quiet, Too quiet. And then I saw her. Lenora was in the kitchen, sitting at the table, her phone face down in front of her, her fingers twisting in her lap. She looked up as I entered her face, a mixture of relief and anxiety. "Where were you?" she asked softly. I ignored the question and walked to the fridge, grabbing a bottle of water. The coldness of it in my palm felt grounding, like something real in the middle of this nightmare. "I talked to him," I said, my voice emotionless. I didn't have to say his name, she knew. Her face paled. "Clyde, don't." I turned to face her. "I don't need another apology. I don't need more excuses. I just need the truth." Her lips trembled. "Did you ever love me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Tears welled in her eyes. "Of course I did. Of course I do." I shook my head. "Then why? Why was it so easy for you to betray me?" She swallowed hard, struggling to find the words. "It wasn't easy. It broke me, Clyde. I hated myself every day. Not enough to tell. Me. Silence." She looked down, and in that moment I saw it. Guilt. Not just for what she did, but for the fact that she never planned on telling me at all. She wasn't sorry for cheating. She was sorry she got caught. A bitter taste filled my mouth. I didn't know this woman anymore. Wasn't sure I ever had. Stood there, gripping the bottle of water in my hand like it was the only thing anchoring me to reality. Lenora sat at the kitchen table, her hand shaking, her eyes pleading with me to say something, anything that would take us back to before. But there was no before anymore. "You never planned to tell me, did you?" I asked, my voice quiet but sharp as a blade. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "No," I answered for her. We're just going to pretend it never happened." She looked down at her lap. "I wanted to protect us, Clyde. I thought if I buried it, if I just tried harder, protect us." I let out a bitter laugh. "You weren't protecting anything. You were protecting yourself because you were afraid of exactly this." Tears streamed down her face, but I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. Not anymore. "Did you think I'd never find out? That we'd just keep going, playing house, and you'd carry this lie to your grave?" She shook her head rapidly. I don't know, Clyde. I wasn't thinking. I was scared." "You were scared?" My voice cracked, something raw and ugly breaking loose inside me. "You cheated, you lied, and now you're scared," she sobbed. Harder, and a part of me recognized that this was a woman in pain. But I couldn't bring myself to care, because the difference between us was simple. I was suffering for something I didn't choose. She was suffering for something she did to herself. I took a slow breath, trying to steady myself. "I need space." Lenora's head snapped up. "Please don't leave. Let's talk." I have nothing left to say, and I didn't.
Ow.
Now maybe not ever. I turned and walked out of the kitchen. Ignoring the sound of her breaking down behind me, that night I slept in the guest room. Well, tried to sleep. I stared at the ceiling, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Every creak of the house, every distant sound of Lenora crying in our bedroom, felt like a reminder of how much had changed in just 24 hours. How was I supposed to live like this? Could I? At some point, exhaustion won, but the sleep was restless, filled with broken dreams, and flashes of her with him. I woke up before the sun, my body aching, my mind even worse. I needed out. Not permanently. Not yet. But I couldn't stay here, trapped in a house that felt like a tomb. The next morning, when I stepped out of the guest room, the house was quiet. Lenora must have still been asleep, or at least pretending to be. Good. I grabbed a bag from the closet, threw in some clothes, my laptop, my essentials. Had no real plan, just a desperate need to breathe. But as I walked toward the front door, I heard her, "You're leaving?" Turned. She stood at the base of the stairs, eyes puffy, her body wrapped in one of my old hoodies. The irony made my stomach turn. "I need time," I said, adjusting the strap of my bag. She stepped forward, panic flickering across her face. "Clyde, please. Don't walk away. This isn't how we fix things." "Fix things?" I let out a breath. Lenora, I don't even know if there's anything left to fix. Her breath hitched, and I saw the desperation in her eyes, the fear she was losing control. Where are you going? She whispered. I don't know, I admitted, because the truth was, I had no idea where to go. I had nowhere that felt safe. I looked at her one last time, and then, without another word, I walked out the door. I didn't look back. I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just let the road take me wherever it wanted. I stopped at a gas station a few towns over, grabbed a coffee, and sat in my car, staring at nothing. I should have called someone my brother, an old friend, but what was I supposed to say? Hey, my wife cheated on me. Can I crash on your couch? Instead, I sat there, sipping coffee that tasted like burnt plastic, feeling more lost than I ever had in my life. And for the first time since this nightmare started, a terrifying thought settled into my chest. Maybe this wasn't something we could come back from. Maybe we were already over. The coffee was lukewarm by the time I took my last sip. I sat in my car, parked outside the gas station, watching people come and go. Normal people, carrying on with their lives like the world wasn't crumbling beneath their feet, like they weren't. Questioning everything they had ever built, I envied them. I knew I couldn't stay here forever, hiding in my car, avoiding my own life. But the thought of going home, walking back into that house, back into that lie, I wasn't ready. So I kept driving. I found myself outside a bar on the other side of town. Not the kind of place I ever would have gone before, but that version of me didn't exist anymore. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through my contacts. My finger hovered over names, family. No, old friends. I wasn't sure I could stomach explaining any of this. Then I saw a name I hadn't thought about in a while, Jonas. We had been best friends in college. It's inseparable. But life happened. Careers, marriages, kids, and we drifted. We still texted here and there, but nothing deep. Still, I needed to talk to someone who wasn't inside that house. I hit call. He picked up on the second ring. Clyde. Damn, man, it's been a while, I exhaled. Yeah, it has. Everything okay? The question almost made me laugh. Not really. There was a pause. Then, in that way only an old friend could, he simply said, Where are you? Told him. 20 minutes later, he slid into the booth across from me, setting a beer on the table. Jonas looked the same, scruffy, laid back, the kind of guy who never seemed rattled. So, he said, taking a sip, talk to me. I hesitated, but then it all spilled out. Everything. Lenora, the cheating, the lies, the fact that I had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do next. Jonas listened, not interrupting, not offering empty words, just listening. When I finally stopped, he let out a low whistle. Man, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, welcome to my world. He drummed his fingers against his beer bottle, thinking, so what now? I don't know, that's the problem. I don't know if I can ever trust her again, and we have kids, man. This isn't just about me. Jonas nodded. Look, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will say this. You don't owe her anything. You don't owe her forgiveness just because she's sorry, and you damn sure don't have to stay just because of the kids. I stared at my drink. Yeah, but walking away feels impossible. Jonas shrugged. So does staying. That hit me harder than I expected because he was right. No matter what I chose, nothing would ever be the same. I drove back to the house late. That night, my stomach in knots. The second I stepped inside, the weight of it all crashed down on me again. Lenora was waiting in the living room. You came back, she whispered. For the kids, I answered honestly. Her face crumpled, but I didn't care. I was too tired, too drained to comfort the woman who had put me here in the first place. I walked past her, heading straight to the guest room. I didn't want to hear another apology. I didn't want another excuse. I just wanted to close my eyes and forget. But deep down, I knew I'd never be able to forget. And the worst part, still had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do next. The guest room was cold. Not in temperature, but in feeling. Like the walls were hollow. Like this space wasn't really mine. It wasn't supposed to be. I was supposed to be in our bed with my wife in our home. But now, every inch of this house felt foreign. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, thoughts spiraling endlessly. Could I really stay? Jonas's words echoed in my head. So does staying. I had never thought of it that way before. I had been so caught up in the fear of leaving that I'd never considered the weight of what it would mean to stay. Because staying meant pretending. It meant looking at Lenora and forcing myself to act like she hadn't broken something irreparable. It meant lying to myself, and I'd already been lied to enough. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of small footsteps outside. The door. A tiny knock followed. "Daddy," my daughter's voice. I sat up, clearing my throat before answering. "Come in, sweetheart." The door creaked open, and Mara stepped inside, her messy bedhead reminding me of Lenora. The resemblance stung. Onto the bed beside me, curling up under my arm like she had done since she was a toddler. "Why are you sleeping in here?" she asked, voice still groggy with sleep. My heart clenched. I had been dreading this. "Just needed a quiet place last night," I said carefully. She frowned. "Smart kid. Too smart." "Are you and Mommy mad at each other?" God. I swallowed hard. What was I supposed to say? I couldn't tell her the truth. She was too young to understand the depth of betrayal, too innocent to be burdened with something so ugly. "Mommy and I just need to figure some things out," I said instead. Her little face scrunched in thought, then she nodded, seemingly satisfied. "With my non-answer, can we make pancakes?" she asked, her voice lighting up. I forced a smile. "Of course, sweetheart." Because no matter what happened between Lenora and me, I still had a job to do. I was still their father by the time I stepped into the kitchen with Mara. Lenora was already there, sitting at the table, staring at her coffee like it held the answers to everything she had destroyed. She looked up when she saw us, her eyes darting between me and Mara, waiting, watching. "Daddy's making pancakes?" Mara chirped, oblivious to the tension that hung between us. Lenora's face softened. "That sounds great, baby." I turned to the stove without a word. I could feel her eyes on me the entire time. She wanted me to look at her. She wanted something, anything, to show that we could be normal again, that we could fix this. But I didn't look at her, because there was no normal anymore, and I wasn't sure there ever would be again. I spent the next 2 days pretending for the kids. Pretending I didn't feel like an imposter in my own home. Pretending that every time Lenora spoke, I didn't hear the echoes of her betrayal underneath her words. Inside, I knew the truth. I had already made my decision. I just didn't want to say it out loud yet, because once I did, there would be no going back. The pretending couldn't last forever. I knew it. Lenora knew it. Even the walls of this house knew it. Because every corner, every room, every shared memory was a reminder of what had been lost. The decision had been made long before I ever spoke the words. It had been made the moment she looked me in the eye and lied for 3 weeks. The moment she let another man touch what was supposed to be mine. But saying it out loud, that made it real. In reality was something I had been trying to escape for days. The kids had gone to sleep. The house was quiet, suffocating in its stillness. I sat on the couch, staring at nothing, my hands clasped together. Lenora walked in, hesitant, like she knew what was coming. "Clyde." I didn't look at her. "We need to talk." I exhaled through my nose. "Yeah, we do." She sat across from me, fidgeting with the sleeve of her sweater, the same sweater she wore on. "Our first date." I almost laughed at the cruel irony of it. "I know I messed up," she started, voice shaking. "I know I hurt you in a way I can never take back. But Clyde, we can get through this." I finally looked at her, how she opened her mouth, but nothing came out because she didn't have an answer. She wanted to believe there was a way forward, but the truth was, there wasn't. "I love you," she whispered. "I love our family. I don't want to lose you." I swallowed hard, my chest tight. "Then you shouldn't have betrayed me." She flinched like I had hit her. "Good. Let it hurt." I leaned forward, my elbows on my knees, my voice calm but steady. "Lenora, I spent the last few days trying to figure out if I could ever trust you again, if I could ever look at you and not see what you did. And I can't. I just can't." Her face crumpled. Tears streamed down her cheeks, but I felt nothing. "Clyde, please, it's over." There it was. The words that sealed everything. She sobbed, covering her mouth with her hands, shaking her head like she could will reality into something else. But it was too late. She had already destroyed us. I packed a bag that night. I wasn't leaving my kids, I'd never do that. But I couldn't stay under the same roof as the woman who had broken me. Lenora stood at the door as I grabbed my keys, still crying. "Is this really it?" she whispered. I turned to her one last time. "You made sure of that." Then I walked out.